And basically what this class is going to be going over is how to do your compliance in command. So basically your transactions. And basically it's going to be a very straightforward workflow. What I like to do is go through the contacts first. I then create the opportunity. And then from there, I can go ahead and generate a DocuSign room. And then we can also work on getting our commission set up as well. So we're going to walk through all four as quickly as I could. If there's any sort of questions as I'm running through this, please pop them into the chat, or you can feel free to unmute yourself. I do see that there's a few people in here at the moment, but if anybody else jumps in, this will be recorded, so I will have this posted to YouTube so you can review it later. All right, awesome. So let's get started. I'm going to switch it just to my personal account because I feel like most agents are going to be working from their personal. This is going to be the same sort of process if you're on a team as well. So the actual workflow isn't going to change too much, but again, we're going to be kind of doing this from a point of view of a single agent. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Now, the way that I get started with any sort of transaction or any sort of opportunity for business, it's always going to start with the contacts. So I'm going to use an example. I found a buyer. We are going to be working on a new transaction together, and I need to start kind of putting everything together in command. I need to be able to send this person paperwork. I need to kind of keep track of where we're at within the transaction itself. So the great thing about command is we have something called opportunities to help us with that. So I'm going to go ahead and start. We're going to go into contacts. We can click this little red KW here. I'm going to jump into contacts. And what I'm going to do from here is we're going to create a new contact. And if you're following along, you can do the same exact thing. I'm going to go ahead and click add contacts. And this is going to be our buyer right now. So the buyer comes in, Seth Rogen, taking a cue from Amanda here with the celebrity names. So Seth Rogen at SethRogen.com, something like that, right? And then we'll put in his phone number. Don't try calling him. You know, he's a very popular guy, but we don't need anybody calling him. So we pop in his phone number. You can also tag them. I find that to be quite beneficial later on. You're going to be working with this person for the indefinite future. So why not keep them in your database and organize them as such? So they're a buyer now, but potentially later they can become a seller. So let's just keep them in here as a buyer. And what I'm going to do now is hit create. So basically the main information that I need at this very moment I have their name, number, and email. So we're going to go ahead and hit create. And we're going to search for his name. It doesn't pop up right away. It's just a refreshing thing. So here we're going to just search for the name. It should appear momentarily. If not, I'm just going to refresh this because it's a little bit slow right now, but it's all good. Here we go. Seth Rogen, he's in here. And Seth is our buyer. So we're going to go ahead and now we're going to create a new opportunity for him. So he's a buyer. We need to go ahead and get him into my pipeline so I can start tracking everything. So we're going to go ahead and go right over to the right-hand side here. We'll hit opportunities. And then we're going to go ahead and hit create opportunity. So basically what I'm doing from here is I'm kind of just getting the transaction opened up, if you want to call it that. So Market Center will always be auto-selected to your Market Center, so you don't have to worry about any of this switching like mine. I am part of additional Market Center, so that's why I have multiple on this list. But let's say hypothetically we are working on this buyer. We're in the Market Center in Woodcliff Lake, which is called Pascack Valley in this case. We're going to go ahead and select from this list buyer. You'll also notice that there's quite a few other ones in here: listing, buyer, landlord, and tenant. I'm going to go ahead and select buyer because he is a buyer. I am the owner, so I know this confuses agents. The owner of that opportunity will be you because that's your opportunity. It's not anybody else's. If you're working on a team, however, you will notice that the owner is going to be the team. You will be the assignee to that particular opportunity, but the team itself will own that opportunity. But if you're a solo agent, you're going to be the owner. So don't worry about this. It's always going to auto select you anyway. All right. We have a client name here that's also auto filled because we are working under that contact card. So I like to go through this workflow like this because you're creating a contact, you're immediately going into the contact, you're creating the particular opportunity for them, and you're doing it all through the contact card. So I'm not really shying away from any sort of other screens I have. So this is the workflow I definitely recommend going through. So opportunity name, I'm going to keep this the same as well. So it's called Seth Rogen Buyer. And the reason why it's called that is because obviously he's a buyer, but we're not going to know right away what the transaction is going to be for. So we don't have an address in mind yet, but we do know that he is a buyer. So I like to keep this the same. We'll keep that the same name. That's also going to autofill, so you don't have to do anything on your end, but you could change that name at any point later on. So just be aware that if you need to change it, you can definitely do that. All right, as I'm going through this, you'll notice there's a few other tabs here that are required. We do have a commission rate, which is going to be, we'll put 2.5. Now, the commission rate is going to be your hypothetical estimate. So the reason why it's going to ask for that is because it wants to be able to give you a estimated or projected commission rate, or a projected commission, basically. So what will you be earning off of that transaction at the end of the day? So you can put like whatever commission rate you expect. You can always go back and change that again later, but I always say like just put something in that's most average. So 2.53, whatever. Those are going to typically be your average commission rates. So put that in there. We'll put a budget in as well. We got a time frame in mind. And then we're also going to put this as an active opportunity, because at this point we are currently working with that person, right? So if I wasn't working with that person, I might put them under a cultivation stage or appointments. But let's just say hypothetically we are working with this buyer already. Now we're starting to track them inside of my command. All right, so we're going to hit create. And now we have a new opportunity created. It's going to be right here. It says December 6th, Seth Rogen, buyer, and we're currently searching for properties. Click that. Awesome. And here we go. This is the inside of the opportunity now. So we made it to this piece of the compliance or the transaction. And this is going to be where you can kind of like micromanage any of the main details. So this is the first screen. It's the detail menu. A lot of stuff I can edit here. So general info, we have quite a few things I can kind of go through, like estimated closing dates. I'm going to put some of this stuff in because when we're starting to work with any of like the paperwork, I just want you to be able to see like what it's auto-filling from here. So let's say we have a contract date in mind and maybe we're expecting a close end of February. And we'll also put it here as well. There we go. And we can kind of go through here. We can select the finance type. We can go ahead and select any of like the appointment scheduling and all that stuff. But in this case, it looks pretty much complete. We'll hit save. One last thing, sorry, I didn't mention this, but you could also type in a co-buyer. So if there's a co-buyer in mind, I can type in a name and that will bring that up. If there's a relationship with that contact, so for example, the contact has a spouse, it will autofill the spouse here as well. So you'll be able to choose them from the drop-down menu. All right, let's hit save. So one other thing you'll also notice here is you can start putting in your property details. And this we can go ahead, we're going to fill this out. So let's say working with Seth, we found the property that we want to put an offer in on. So we need to start getting some of the details put into the opportunity. In which case, I'm going to type in an address here. And we're just going to let that autofill. There we go. And then we're going to go ahead and hit save. So we have an address. we have most of the main details or general info populated. And what I can start doing next is now I got to start getting the documentation put together. So right to the right of this, you'll notice that I have something here called documents. And under documents, we can click that. And this is going to allow me to then start working with any of the checklists that are available to my market center. So for example, let's pick a checklist type. We have 3 at the moment: NJ residential, NY residential, and then commercial. So if I select NJ residential, here we go. We have a nice little checklist of all the different types of documents available, or that's required rather. So here under the consultation phase, we do have the CIS that's required, COVID form, of course. Some of the conditionally required things like consent to dual agency, permission to advertise, buyer agency agreements. So again, some of these are going to be conditional based around that particular type of transaction. And I can go under contract as well. You'll notice here, executed contract, contract writer, wire fraud notice, affiliated business disclosure, lead paint form, MLS printout. So anything that would be essentially required, I'm just going to pop those to the top here so we can see. Anything that's required will be on the top. And then you'll have your conditionally required stuff here as well. Again, they're all going to be dependent on the type of transaction. And if you hover over these little I's, it does give you a description of what that document's for. In which case, if it's a conditionally required form, it does let you know why it's conditionally required. So super useful. The other thing I also like about this is if we click on the wire fraud notice, just as one example here, it's going to give me a sample form, and it's going to let me know where that particular person should be signing. So like if I am looking to fill this out and I'm new and I'm not sure like what has to be filled, these give you a nice little overview of like what should be filled, where things should be signed. Very, very useful. All right, so we got this far. We got into the opportunity. We are starting to go through our checklist now. And now I'm like, well, how do I get my documents? So the way that we do that, we can click that start a transaction button here. And it's going to ask me to log in. So pop this on, log in, there we go. And now we are inside of the actual room. So I'm not going to go deep dive into DocuSign today because we do have classes that deep dive into it, but I want to just give you an idea of like how from the workflow, how I'm going from command to DocuSign. And you'll also notice on the top bar here, I have 3 tabs open. So I like to keep these open because for one, I can go right back into the contact card for anything. 2, I can go back into the document section and I could review any sort of forms that I need to upload. And we have the 3rd tab, which is going to obviously be my DocuSign room. So I always recommend keeping these tabs open. You're going to be bouncing from DocuSign to documents here because you're going to be pulling documents back in. So I highly recommend when you're working with DocuSign, keeping this one open. So let's just take one of these forms here. We're going to do, let's see if I can open one of them. Affiliated business disclosure. All right, so if you recall from the opportunity, I had filled out a lot of details before. So a lot of that information's already here, which is awesome. And you'll notice that the buyer signature boxes are not. So why is that? When you're working with a DocuSign room, the templates that auto fill into here, so the forms basically that you're going to be working with and filling out, the signature boxes do not appear until you're ready to send it. So essentially when I'm getting ready to send it as an envelope, which is how I'm sending it out, then the signature fields will appear. So right now it's blank. So let's save and close this. We're just going to do one as an example. And we're going to click that where it says affiliated business disclosure. And we're going to click this create envelope button. There we go. All right, cool. So we're now inside of the envelope. So the envelope is basically how I'm preparing the forms to be signed. So once you're in this particular screen, you cannot go back, or let me rephrase that. Once you're in this particular screen, you're basically prepping for signatures. So you're not able to edit the template unless you're going back into the room. So think of it this way, you already prepared it, you're finalizing it, you're just getting signatures at this point. So you've already at some point would have filled it out in the room. Now I'm bringing it back into here to fill and, or not fill rather, but sign. You can see here where it says add recipients to envelope. This is how I'm gonna choose who it's being sent to. So pre-tag roles, it's gonna use the form mapping to help me out. So basically it means it's gonna autofill those signatures for the buyer 1, buyer 2, buyer 3, but we're only having one buyer here. So we got Seth Rogen on deck. I'm gonna select them from that drop-down menu. Now, the reason why he's here is because he was in the opportunity. And the opportunity does a great job of basically autofilling particular roles. So keep that in mind. So I'm just changing the email here because I want to send it to myself so you can see. But here we got buyer 1, all good. Seth Rogen's going to receive that. We'll hit next. All right, so we are back in here. And this is what the form is going to look like at this point. It's kind of like a static PDF. You can see that the text is already there, but it's not editable. It's all pretty much static. But it's okay because we're already finished with this part. We don't need to do anything else. But if you scroll down a little bit, you'll notice that the signature boxes are in place. So buyer number 1 is good to go. Now, hypothetically, if you need to ever edit anything or add an additional text box, you do have the ability to do that here with a Prefill tool. And the Prefill tool is going to fill in whatever's necessary. So if I need a checkbox, let's say as an example, we'll just check this off here, right? That will check it off, and that will be a global change. So it's not assigned to anybody. It's basically saying like, I am assigning that to the form, and nobody else has to edit it. It's just for the purpose of making sure it's completed. And then what we're going to do is hit send. So that's it. We're just sending it out. We're good to go. It's going to say now waiting for others. So I can go back into my email. Here we got an email. It's saying basically that I'm reviewing a document. This is what the customer is going to see. And we'll hit I agree, we'll hit continue, and then we'll hit start. And it's going to lead me anywhere on the form that requires a signature. Now, if this was a form that would require any additional filling by the particular buyer or seller, it would assign those fields to them, and then all they would have to do is fill those out and then sign. So now it's signed, we'll hit save, or we'll hit finish rather. And then that's it. So they don't have to sign up for any accounts. They don't need to do any of that stuff. Additionally, if you're using the mobile app, it does notify you on the app that they have signed. I just got a notification, which is great. And then we can hit no thanks. They don't need to do anything else. They're good. All right. So that's all set. We're going to archive that because we don't need it anymore. But additionally, you do have a copy in your email that is signed, which is great. So if you need to forward this to like your attorney or whomever, that form will be there, and it's a PDF, so you can download that to your computer as well. All right, so under documents, we're going to go back real quick just to show you. Here's the completed form. So that's the completed signed form. You have a certification that is essentially like your audit. Highly recommend just keeping that in the room for any purpose. This does give you a nice little timeline of when things were signed. Highly recommend just keeping that in there. One last thing before I move back into command, I like to just create a folder in here called Sign Docs, which you can do under Actions. We'll hit Add Folder, and we're going to do here Sign Docs, Create. And here you'll see Sign Docs, and I can just kind of drag that into that folder. I like to do that just because I like to keep all my stuff kind of separated. And we can kind of take it a step further. So like if I wanted to say Sign Docs, and if we're going to have multiple offers, as an example, I might just put 777 South 3rd. That way I have a folder just in place for that property. And then if I'm sending more additional offers, we can create additional folders for those properties. All right, let's go back. So we're done. We got everything signed, right? We're getting everything good to go. I have to go back into command. So let's keep that tab open here. And I'm just going to refresh this because it does need to be refreshed just so it knows that the documents are there. Now I'm here. We're back in command. We're under the opportunity. We're under the checklist. Now, as documents are starting to come in, I could select them here and I could add them into my checklist. So here as an example, we have the AFBA that is actually in our Sign Docs folder here. And then we can just select it. So it's the only form. So it makes it a lot easier for me to find. And then we can open it up. You'll notice that it is signed. It looks good. Awesome. And that's it. So basically from here, once that is good to go, it's signed, I can go ahead and hit submit to MC. And that is going to submit a notification or a nudge to the office. Hey, I have some documents I just submitted. Can you please check them? If you recall, when we're doing this with .loop, we would submit for review. It's basically the same idea, except you're running everything through command. So I'm not jumping back and forth between a million systems. I'm keeping everything in command. And from this point on, I can just hit submit to MC. You're all set. All right. So from here, let's say now we got the offer, it's accepted. And we want to be able to now submit a commission request in command. So basically the nice thing about command is that everything is connected together. So right next to where it says documents, you have the option here called offers and commissions. And that's where I'm going to put in my offer. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to hit add new offer. We're going to say initial offer here. We're going to hit create. And we can just put accepted offer. I think that will make it a little bit more obvious. So accepted offer. Offer date, let's just say it was today. We're expecting the closing date to be in the end of, let's say, February, as we mentioned. The property address, we'll just type in here. You could additionally search for it from the KWLS, but we're going to just type in the address. It's not a big deal. We'll hit parties. The buyer information and buyer agent name will appear here automatically. So all I really need is a seller name. And then we need a seller's listing agent's name. Sam Smith, John Smith, they're related. Helping his brother sell his property. So there we go. Seth Rogen just found a new house. Terms. Now this is going to be just trying to get to the sale price really. So you're not going to really need to put the finance amount or cash amount. It's not going to affect anything on the end for you specifically. However, if you're receiving multiple offers from the selling end, you might want to have these inputted as such. So because this is a buy side, I know like this is what the actual sale price was and this is what it was based around. So I don't really need to put in any additional information. So it's just looking for the sale price really. Earnest amounts, percentages, all that good stuff. I don't need that. I'm just going to go ahead and just hit agent analysis. Now, agent analysis is going to be useful, especially when you're working with multiple offer situations. So what's the pros and cons of that offer? here's a little bit of a summary for that, but this is a buy side, so I'm not gonna worry about that too much. I mean, I could use this as a way to kind of handle some of the offers that we're submitting, but I think for now, we're just gonna save that. And we're brought to this page here. So we're back, and you'll notice that there is an option for me to accept or reject this offer. Again, coming from the buy side, it's most likely going to be an offer that was already accepted. So we can hit that accept button. And here it's going to now say open commission status. So basically it's saying that the commission is now open, but it hasn't been submitted for review yet. So how do we set up our commission? So right now we have an option that says manage commission that opens up after the offer is either accepted. So we'll hit manage commission. On this end, you're going to notice now it's going to break down the commission for me. So what's the total commission? Here you'll notice that you do see a net pay. So like what exactly will I be paid at the end of the day? After all of the fees and all of the splits have been taken out, my net pay is going to be around 7,733. Not too bad. And here you'll also notice that if you have any sort of automatic deduction set up, it will remove those automatically. So there is a setting menu in the settings here where you can set up those deductions. But otherwise, that will be something you can manually add at the end. So let's just go ahead and say we're switching the commission rate. Maybe it wound up being 3%, and we'll hit save. So you'll notice now that the gross commission changes, and then also the net pay changes a little bit. Additionally, I can go into here, and if I need to add any other any sort of deductions or bonuses or referral fees, you can do that here under where it says edit or extra payment options. In which case I can add a bonus, concession, a deduction, inside, outside referrals, and those will be deducted accordingly. Otherwise, when you're all set, there's a button here that says submit. And once you hit submit, that's going to go directly to your MCA, and the MCA can review your commission request, in which case you'll have it either accepted or sent back to you. Maybe you're missing something from your paperwork, or maybe some of the numbers are wonky. But otherwise, once you hit submit, that goes directly to your market center. So does anybody have questions so far? Anybody have questions on anything that I've been running through?
I have a question. I have a closing tomorrow, and I still have to, uploaded a lot of things through command. Where do green sheets fall in all this?
Green sheets are no longer being used. So basically this here where it says offers and commissions.
Okay.
The offers and commissions is going to be like the green sheets 2.0, if you want to call it that. So essentially what I just walked through is what is basically a green sheet now.
Okay.
So I would say it's very much more straightforward than a green sheet. It's a lot simpler to do. And it's a lot more transparent around like all your fees and, you know, how close you are to capping. So again, yeah, this is going to be basically like your green sheet.
Okay. So this should be sufficient enough to be ready for the closing.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Cool. All right. So I am on a little bit of a time crunch here. It says I have 10 minutes left. Does anybody have any additional questions before I start kind of like wrapping things up here? All right, cool. So one thing I'm going to just pull up real quick. I like to pull this up every time I do a class now. So basically we have a YouTube channel and it's called Bergen County Partners. So if you are looking for any of these videos to rewatch or review, we will have it here where you can rewatch any of those classes. So you can see here, like Amanda has some classes. I post a lot of mine. Any sort of like special classes we're doing as well, those will also be posted here. So if you're looking for a way to review anything or rewatch any sort of sessions we've had, definitely give this a subscribe if you haven't. You know, we're up to 715 subscribers. That's awesome. But yeah, if you have a chance and you haven't already done it, just give ahead and give it a go. It's just called Bergen County Partners. It's on YouTube, and you'll get those notifications anytime any new content is added. So just wanted to go over that. I think it's a super useful resource. Another resource that I also highly recommend, and I want to start kind of adding this into my class too. Answers.kw.com. This is a very, very good resource. So if you're looking for any sort of specific type of question, let's say it's around compliance, you can see here like attach compliance documents to an opportunity, and this will allow you to see kind of like a step-by-step breakdown, and it has these nice little screenshots here too. This will give you an idea of like how I should be, you know, basically doing anything in command. So highly recommend that as a resource as well. You can bookmark that. It's in my email signature, so if you email me. Otherwise, that's basically what I want to go over. If there was no other questions, again, I'm gonna have this on YouTube a little bit later so you can rewatch it. Otherwise, I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their Monday. Take care, everybody. Thanks.